Good day, fellow Earthlings. How goes it for you? It's supposed to be up to 107 today. I think that's 43 centigrade or something ridiculous like that. So I'm dressed appropriately. My car doesn't have air conditioning, it's broken. So even if I wanted to get out, I wouldn't be doing it today. It looks like it'll be in the hundreds. It has been for a little while now. Interesting. But this is normal for Arkansas. Okay, I have a journal for you that will refer you to another journal. And it's kind of strange because each time as I go to read one, I see how I've changed since it was written or recorded. And I find myself talk about editing when I've got the journal recorded and I'm in process of uploading it. While it's doing that, I'll go back over the written part. And even though it's already been recorded and it's supposed to be a transcript, I even find myself making some edits and some changes to that. It's like everything is just constantly improving. Strange. But I'm feeling really good and charged up. So let me read to you. The Mayan day for this one, which was 6/25, was 7 Crocodile. And Crocodile is the first of their sun signs. So it has the power of the 1. And then the 7 is in the middle there. So, all right, I guess it's roller coaster time again. In the video I just recorded, written on June 11th, I find myself writing about being so energized of doing 4 journals in one day. Yet I feel, as I'm reading those words, what a contrast it is to what's going on now. It's not that I'm back in the dumps again, that sort of thing, but the recent days have been pretty heavy. Whether this has something to do with the Pluto-Uranus square being exact or not, I don't know. But you know, I'm glad to at least know about it. If nothing else, it gives the mind a donkey on which to pin the tail of feeling challenged yet again. It seems we get short periods where all feels fine, where we really begin to recover from the last energy wallop, whatever it was, when, look out, here it comes once again. Oh well. It's actually one of the nicest things about 3D that nothing ever remains the same for too long. Whatever it is, if it's in 3D, then it has a guaranteed beginning, middle, and end. It's transitory. We might want the good times to last forever, but I suspect if they did, we'd want something else. That may even be why some of us incarnate, for the challenge, the variety, the awesomeness of wearing one of these bodies. Balance. That's what we're led to eventually. The more we can find and keep our balance in the midst of all of it, the better. It makes life so much easier. Not that it's easy at any point, mind you. It's not. Just to even know that there is suffering, cruelty, and starvation anywhere, war and killing, is to have pain. We're all one, you know. Back when we were sleeple, we at least had the comfort that it wasn't us who was hurting. As we awaken, we realize how false that is. We discover that everything and everyone is just one, and that we are that. It's a big part of awakening. Maybe we have a mind just to cushion our awakening. It allows us to come to a mental comprehension or understanding of things first, before we find our way into heart and the real direct experience of them. To come directly into that experience without the forewarning of the mind's comprehension can be kind of rough. The extreme example would be the awakenings like Byron Katie and David Icke's, awakening without warning and with no comprehension. It's amazing, though, how the mind can convince itself that it has the full understanding and experience of something when it doesn't at all. The mind's imagination simply fails to come to grips with the whole other world found within heart, where the rules fall away and everything is so completely different. Poor mind. Oh well, we're divine, and ever since learning that, I've been much more relaxed about things. I don't tend to pity people anymore. Just knowing they are divine makes me realize how well equipped we all are to handle simply anything, and then some. We're not the pathetic wimps we grew up to believe, that as we were taught. Now, of course, getting over those old beliefs and that programming is terribly trying. It's not something that's done in a day or a month or even a year. It calls on the best in us, calls that out. It takes real determination. Without perseverance, people seldom wake up. Making the right choice is great, but we've got to make it again and again, endlessly, or so it seems. And usually the mind interferes with that. It comes in telling us about all those other things we'd much rather be doing, trying to convince us of that, all sorts of distractions. Maybe mind itself is the biggest challenge we face. I don't know. Then again, it's likely different for everyone. The more I get into this waking up thing, the more I realize how very different we all are in the midst of this overall oneness. It's funny, too, for we really are all one. So, what's with all these differences? A source is a strange one, for sure. I think it's best not to try to figure source out. The first grader can dream and imagine and think all day long and never come on what it's like to be the high school senior. It just can't be done, absent looking either into the Akashic records or his or her own lifetimes. Not so likely these days, but it will be soon. Soon enough, we'll have such things available to us whenever we like. Heck, why not? We have all sorts of powers, though, right now, which we don't even know about, going unused. So it's likely we'd do better to discover and develop this before asking for other ones, like reading Akasha. There are some themes I'm noticing in this waking up. One of them, as I've said, is finding the value of simple balance. And that's a big one, which will help you navigate through some treacherous waters. Another one is about taking responsibility. I find it a natural consequence of taking our power back. It's the flip side of that coin. When you enter heart, the whole judgment thing vanishes on the spot. You just know it has no place there. And still, that's rather surprising, and you're not initially aware of how deep the consequences, the impact of that is. It turns out that abandoning all judging is really huge, invading many parts of your life. This is one of the most beautiful invasions I've ever experienced. With each new step in non-judgment, I find a deeper and deeper relaxation taking place. So much weight is lifted from my shoulders. That seems counterintuitive, doesn't it? One would think that by taking responsibility for things, one's burdens would be increased. But they're not. How can that be? I don't know, since I haven't thought of it in these terms before. So let's explore. First, it's simply nice not to have to figure out whose fault something is. You discover there's really no point in that, and so that lightens the load a bit. It empowers you too. You realize that no matter what you're seeing out there, that the cause is within. That's totally empowering. No longer do you fear the big bad boogeyman. There is simply nothing external that means anything. I don't know if many will get this, but in knowing that you largely create your own world, your experience, you're no longer a hapless, helpless passenger in life. You're back in the driver's seat. It's empowering. I guess it's really a constellation of things that go into this empowerment, like learning how empty supposedly solid things really are. When you find that the world, as you've mentally constructed it, doesn't exist at all, well, it's liberating. You see, in our internally crafted world, we were all taught how small and insignificant we were, how very big the world and the universe was. How nice to find that's all just a myth. Being put back into the driver's seat of your life and learning that you're actually divine, that's heady medicine that can cure much of what ails you and your life. It turns out that so very much of, if not all of, what bothered you about life was simply wrong-headed, incorrect. So many of our old imagined problems just collapse. It turns out they were nothing at all. This thing with learning we're divine is really huge, too. I found that the bulk of my troubles early on were centered on believing I was the body, or then the body-mind, since those are quite vulnerable to all sorts of dangers and ailments that made me vulnerable too. But now I know that I'm not. Now that I know I'm not that I'm closer to being spirit or consciousness than anything at all in 3D, well, that frees me from every vulnerability of body and mind. Nancy Dennison says she became aware that she had hundreds of thousands of lifetimes. Just imagine. Now, imagine them being not consecutive, past, present, future, orderly, but rather concurrent, simultaneous. Rather boggles the mind, doesn't it? Juggling all those balls at once? Well, it's meant to. We're so far greater than we've even begun to imagine while wearing one of these skin suits. We're truly awesome beings, my friends. Are you making room for this in your ponderings, in your awareness? Until we see something, it might as well not be there for us, for all the good it's doing us. Do you see that? While it's a terrible shock to discover the key to our prison has been in our pocket for all of our life, yet it's made up for by how fantastic that news is, isn't it? Isn't it at least a little bit exciting to contemplate such things? And what if they're right? Could you handle that? Well, Could you? Some people can't, you know. Some people are actually quite frail. Not in reality, but in their belief system they are. So they might as well be. We craft our reality on the foundation of all of our beliefs. For most of us, what we've crafted and called reality is much more like Alice in Wonderland, totally out there. Most of us are clueless about what is truly real, including yours truly. Hey, at least I admit it, right? That's taking the first step. I'm learning right along with everyone else. Remembering. Okay, I could go on forever and ever, it seems. I'm finding all sorts of really good journaling things inside just now. Yet I don't want to make these too long. Our freedom is truly at hand, friends. Keep working steadily to pull the weeds from your garden of beliefs by remembering or just coming to know that our whole sense of reality is founded on those. That makes this the most important garden we ever came across. Some strange times are just up ahead for us, and for those whose ideas are too totally far out of sync with what will be happening, that will make for a terribly difficult section of their journey. Yet it doesn't need to be like that. We can get much of this work done ahead of time, ahead of that oncoming wave, so that when we start seeing strange things or discovering psychic powers, we're more ready for that. It doesn't need to be such a shock. Do you see? Let's be open, far more open than maybe we're used to being. Being stiff and unyielding? Well, this just isn't the time for that. You don't need to crack and break by being so brittle that you can't bend in the storms. The more flexible we can be with our vision, with the perspectives we take to view life, that much better for us when things start to get strange. If they do, what do I know? Above all, let's remember we're more than in this together. We are actually and entirely one and the same being, no matter how crazy that seems. It's only crazy to mind, not to heart. You can weather absolutely any storm of any kind from within heart. That's where your divinity abides, or at least it's the contact point, since such things can't be defined. I'll meet you there. Namaste.